Hello, today's an amazing day as it's episode number 2 of our Haute Leaders chat with lawyers. And today's an exciting day as we are featuring, in my opinion, one of the most successful success stories in law, a good friend of Haute Living, Robert Zarco. Robert, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you, Seth. I'm already blushing, as you can tell by the color of my face.
Well, wait, we're going to make you blush more because we haven't gone into your bio. So let me go into your bio, if you don't mind. Robert Zarco, founder of the law firm Zarco, Einhorn, Salkowski, and Brito, has been at the forefront of protecting the legal rights and interests of clients in the USA and overseas for over 30 years, handling complex franchise, commercial, and business legal matters in trials in federal and state courts, as well as arbitration and mediation. As a very active trial lawyer in franchise, hospitality, dealership distribution, trademark, commercial, and real estate disputes, Zarco is frequently awarded distinctions, including Lawyer of the Year in 2020 for franchise law by Best Lawyers of America, Top Deal Makers of the Year for Real Estate Land by Daily Business Review, Legal Eagle by Franchise Times, and South Florida's Top Lawyers by Miami Herald. The firm is repeatedly listed in U.S. News and World Report among the best law firms by Best Lawyers of America. Robert, thank you so much again, as I said, for taking the time. But what I'm excited about is sharing your story, because I've heard your story and it's remarkable how you got to where you got to. And I know I'd love for you to kind of share, talking about you, Robert Zarco. When did you want to become a lawyer, and where did you grow up and go to school and then decide to go to law school?
All right, so let's go a little bit back, because I think that a lot of what has contributed to my being successful today started at an early age. And that was, considering that I was the one of 2 children that my mom and dad came as immigrants from Cuba with back in 1960, all I saw was an extraordinary amount of hard work on behalf of my father and my mother in terms of what they had to do in this country to try to survive. It wasn't a question of making it big. At that point, it was a question of survival when you had 2 professional parents. One was a pharmacist in Cuba, my mother, and the other one was a CPA in Cuba. My father was also owned a women's sportswear manufacturing facility, and then had to give it all up when it was taken away by Castro, and then come to this country to work in a factory making 60 cents, yes, 60 cents an hour, and working about 18 hours a day, 6 days a week, in order to be able to put food on the table and clothing on our backs. That's very impactful and very impressive for a young child. My brother was 4 years older. He was 6, I was 2. My little sister that was not yet born did not get a chance to live through that. But when she was born 7 years later, it was not like there was a lot of money on the table as well. But seeing that my parents were working so hard to be able to provide for our family, including my father's mother and father that came with them at the same time, I realized that if I wanted to enjoy the better things in life, which I seem to have had a flair for at a very early age, it would be very, very unfair for me to impose on my parents to provide for me when they were having difficulty providing for the family itself. So I decided I was going to start a small landscape business at the age of 7. And I know it sounds funny, people don't believe it, but the lawnmower, I think, was larger than I was. But I had no lawnmower, so it's kind of tough to start a landscape business without having the equipment that was necessary. But I did notice that the kid across the street, who was 12 years old when I was 7, was mowing his dad's lawn. And I went up to him one day and said, listen, I'd like to make a deal with you. I want to start a business and I would like you to be my partner, but I really need your lawnmower. Well, that's when, in my mind, the old principle of leasing started before it was ever created in this country. So I said, if you come and work with me and we charge $3 for a lawn, I'll give you $1. I make $1 and I will pay the lawnmower $1. because if the lawnmower breaks, you're not going to give me any money back. And you know, I'm not going to want to put money into it. So we'll make sure that we have a piggy bank that has $1 for each lawn we mow, just in case the lawnmower breaks. I was already anticipating modern day depreciation. At which point I started this business. And believe it or not, it was an overwhelming success for a young boy. I did it from the age of 7 to the age of 18 when I went away to college. And I was doing it after school, and I was doing it throughout high school, and I was doing it on weekends. And you may think, big deal. Well, big deal. By the time I was 15, 16 years old, approximately, I already had saved in the bank $54,200. Now imagine that 50 years ago, having $54,000 in the bank at the age of 15, 16 years old. So I knew money. I understood money. And as my parents would drive me, down the street when we'd go get a bite to eat, going to a Burger King or McDonald's was a big deal. I was always enamored with that type of franchise business, not knowing what it would turn into for me, 2 decades later. And I said to my dad and mom, one day I want to own a franchise. I think that being a franchisee in this country, you can make a lot of money. Look at how many people are in line to go buy a hamburger, fry, and Coke. Lo and behold, 20 years later, I got into the franchise world. But prior to that, I had done very, very well in high school. I had all the, academic achievements. I worked really hard, and I was very popular in school because I was involved in a lot of organizations, student body president, all that good stuff. And as a result of that leadership credential that I had developed, I was pursued by and recruited by Harvard to go to college there. So I went to Harvard for 4 years. But when I went there, it was a financial struggle. I couldn't afford it. I went on a financial scholarship. I took out student loans. My parents paid for a small part of it, whatever they could. And what I did to make sure that I could survive and most of all be able to buy a plane ticket to come home to visit my family was I entered the dorm crew program. And the dorm crew program sounds very, very, high level. All right, let's bring it down to basics. I cleaned toilets. That's what I did. I'd clean toilets. All the students' dorm toilets were cleaned by me and the people from my crew. Why did I choose that? It was the highest paying job for obvious reasons. But I quickly became a supervisor, so now I didn't have to clean the toilets and the bathrooms. Other people did. I supervised them, and while I was supervising them, I was also a security guard at the art museum on campus. So my life—
While you were going to college too, Harvard, while you were going to school.
Yes, of course. I was taking a full schedule in college and had to maintain my dorm crew job, maintain my supervisory role because I didn't want to be demoted back to cleaning the toilets. It was also a higher paying job. It was a lot of money back then. I remember clearly, if you cleaned the toilets, it was $3.50. If you were the supervisor, it was $4.50 an hour. And then being a security guard for what was called Carpenter Museum, that was another $3 an hour. But the nice thing about that job was that I worked late hours when the museum was really closed, and I studied. That's what I was able to do. I was studying while I was guarding the security company, at which point I then, had a very successful career at Harvard. I was heavily recruited by several of the largest American companies and ended up working for General Motors in New York. When I went to interview to work at General Motors.
Well, when you say you went to General Motors, not obviously as a lawyer, so what were you wanting to be, or what were you recruited to do?
When I was graduating from Harvard, I was heavily recruited by a lot of these major companies, including General Motors. And I thought that my career path, because I had a degree in economics, that I wanted to get into the finance world.
Okay.
When I joined General Motors, it was my plan and objective to reach the highest level of executive management at the company in the finance area. So I interviewed with General Motors in New York, and they asked me, and I won't forget this because I can't erase from my mind the expression on the face of the General Motors executive that interviewed me. And he says, "So what do you want to do?" Said, well, I want to, join your company. I would like to get trained through some kind of management program that I understand you have. And my ultimate objective is to be, chairman of the board of this company. And he looked at me like I was absolutely out of my mind. And I asked him, I said, why are you laughing? Somebody's got to do it. And at that time, Roger Smith was the chairman. I said, Roger Smith started as a timekeeper in General Motors, and he did not have the degree in economics from Harvard that I did. So if I'm starting maybe at this, I'm willing to start at the same level and follow his path to achieve that goal. And in General Motors, there was two ways of getting to the top. There was either the production side, where you would become the president, and the finance side, where you become the chairman. So those were the two top positions. And they laughed, but they offered me the job. And it was a wonderful experience. I was there about 2.5 years. I got approximately 12 promotions in 18 months. And then I remained as a financial analyst for another 1.5 years. So it was a total of about 3 years. But during the end of that time period, there was an incident that occurred that revealed a very discriminatory environment and atmosphere for people that were of the Jewish faith. And it was very clear, and it was made very overt and direct that as a Jew, I would never be able to get to the top of this company, much less even remain there, even in a senior level of management or executive position. At which point I left the company that day. I went home. As I was driving home, I told my mom and dad, I said, you know what? Is it okay if I move back home? They go, why? Everything okay? I said, no, I think I'm going to quit in about 30 days. I'm going to go to law school. And that's how my law school career started. It was a bad situation turned into a wonderful situation. It was turning lemons into lemonade and pursuing my attitude about everything I do in life. And that is, I'm a very positive thinker. I always look at the glass as half full. And I said to myself, everything happens for a reason. I live today by that. Everything happens for a reason. I know it's a cliche that most people think, yeah. No, I really do. You can have some really bad stuff happen, in your life. And if you think about it, it all happens for a reason, then you will realize that you will later realize why it in fact did occur. At which point I went ahead and I applied to law school, applied to the University of Miami Law School. I didn't want to apply anywhere else. Looking back, maybe I should apply to some different schools, considering my credentials and my background, but I wanted to come home. I was tired of the Northeast, it was too cold, and I enrolled in the University of Miami Law School. While I was at General Motors, though, during those 3 years, I attended Pace University Graduate School of Business, pursuing my MBA. And when I was 5 credits short of getting the MBA, the law school started. So I either had a choice: finish the MBA with the 5 credits or miss a year of law school. I was already making a lot of money at General Motors, and I was afraid, because I was up for a promotion again, that next promotion was going to take me to a huge salary, and I was going to get stuck in not wanting to give up the salary because of the opportunity cost of it. At which point I said to myself, I was 23, 24 years old. I said, if I don't do this now, I may never do it. So I tabled the MBA. Again, I did 95% of it and started law school. And it was a wonderful experience. During law school, I worked at probably 8 different law firms. It's the only time in your life when you're in law school that you can actually switch jobs as frequently and as regularly as I did and not be considered to be unstable. And the reason is because the law school career is broken down in semesters. So you have fall semester, spring semester, summer semester. Fall, spring, summer, you could actually go to work at a different law firm or at a different, county office or state office or federal office or wherever you wanted, as long as it was through the end of a semester and starting at another place at the beginning of the other semester, you were considered to be just gaining experience. And as a result of that, I did it for 2 reasons. One, I wanted to try out different areas of law, even though I knew that I wanted to be a trial lawyer, but I wasn't sure in what area. And 2, I knew that I was planting my seeds. in Miami by meeting so many people from so many law firms, that one day it was going to be important that I knew who they were and they knew who I was. And that's what I did.
And so your story is amazing because obviously how you got to where you got to be. It's almost like it's kind of like, you know, sometimes people think people are lucky, but it's not. And, you know, through tough times, you pivoted and you made decisions that now have got to where you got to. So I think what I'd like to talk about is you were a lawyer, you were working at a big law firm. I remember your story. You could kind of explain it more in detail. And there was an opportunity with a franchise case, and your law firm was telling you you were crazy. No, 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 no. So tell us a little about how you began to really build your brand and being a specialist in what you do today.
My first job out of law school was for a law firm that I worked with during the previous summer. It was a firm, highly reputed firm at the time. It was called Floyd, Pearson, Richmond, Greer, Wiles, Zach, and Brumbaugh. And each one of those senior partners were just the classiest guys. They were super, super intelligent and really like a family to me. As a result of a financial setback that I had as a result of a situation that occurred through extended members of the family, I had no choice but to leave that law firm to be able to double my salary and work at another law firm. I went to a second law firm, obviously was making a lot more money, and a case from Burger King, a case was actually from Boston, was referred by a lawyer from Boston to our law firm here in Miami to handle. It was an encroachment case. And based on the language of the franchise agreement, the referring lawyer, as well as my partners here at the Miami law firm, told me that the case really had no value, that there was no way that based on the express language of the agreement, that there could be any possibility that the case is worth more than $50,000 on a best day. And when I got the case, I became passionately involved. You may say, why? If the portion of my interview about my reaction when I was 7 to 10 years old of going to visit Burger Kings and McDonald's with my parents and seeing people out of line, you know, out there looking to buy these products, and me telling my parents, gee, one day I want to own those because I want to be rich, and me having the perception that if you own a franchise in America, you're going to be wealthy and financially secure, to then 20 years later receive a case where a franchisee from Burger King has been treated in a way that was unfair in my view, and that was not an act of good faith, to the point that the family went bankrupt and lost their livelihood, and as a result were in a major lawsuit. That triggered my sense of conviction and passion for the case. And where my partners at that time felt that the case had no value, I felt it had value. And for certain circumstances that occurred in that law firm, in terms of that case, it was determined that it would be a great idea if I went on my own and did whatever I wanted to do with that case. And although at that time when I left,
how old, you know, Zarco, how old were you? Because I think that's an important thing to talk about, is here's a guy making a lot of money, similar to what you did at GM. And I think that's an important lesson to learn, because, you know, sometimes, you know, because I'm Jewish, you're making money, you're in New York, you know, your parents look up to you. You don't want to have to make the call and say, hey, I got to come home. So sometimes people look the other way, and what happened is you didn't look the other way. You took pride in who you were, and you stuck to your, you know, what you believed in, and you left. And similar to the law, like, you're making a huge amount of money. You're young. You're probably like, that to me is what's remarkable, because that's a very hard choice to make. And it's a risky choice that you took on, because you left a huge salary job taking a case at a young guy. And all these smart lawyers are probably thinking like, oh, there's no money there. And how old were you when that happened? Because to me, that is what's so remarkable about I mean, obviously there's a lot of things, but that to see where you're at now is what really got you to where you got to.
I was 30, 31 or 32 when I started this law firm. And I had other opportunities with very substantial offers, doubling the salary that I was making at the current law firm. And I said, you know what? I don't want to get into another situation with a big firm where you have all these executive committee meetings and you get other people deciding whether a case is a good case, a case is a bad case. You know, your creativity, your wings are clipped. I said, I'm going to do this on my own and I'm going to roll the dice because I had faith in myself. And that's the key principle. The key principle is how much faith do you have in your ability to be able to overcome challenges? Look, today we're living in a society where it's full of challenges in many, many levels coming from many different directions. There's a lot of people that choose to put their head in the sand. There's other people that look at this as the land of opportunity and a moment of development and expansion and growth. But I had that view since I was very, very young. Remember, I had an extraordinary level of self-confidence. And the reason was I started so young, you know, at the age of 7. And, you know, during the different positions and chapters in my life, there were challenges at time and obstacles, but I was able to overcome each one because I always looked at the glass as half full and how I can use whatever is going on in my favor to benefit my objectives and to feed those goals and objectives. So what happens is I say to myself, I don't need a lot of money to live at that point as a result of the financial hardship that I had told you. A lot of my financial wealth had been wiped out, most of it actually, but I still knew that I had tremendous income potential. So what I did was I decided to start my own law firm. I cut my salary dramatically. I think I set my salary at $50,000 a year, when by that time I was already making 4 times that, and I was 30 years old. So, which in those dollars, 30 years ago, approximately $200,000 was a lot of money. But I said, you know what? I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to do the right thing. I had a passion for this area of law, and I was going to expand that. At which point I go ahead and I take this case that my ex-partners literally threw at me and said, you can take this worthless piece of shit case with you. I did. I immediately amended the complaint. I came up with all these different legal theories. And as a result of winning a landmark decision on the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing doctrine in front of Judge Hoovler here in South Florida, this case became a tremendous legal precedent. And it actually showed me that, in fact, if you work hard enough and if you look deep enough under the stone, you will find the answer. You will find a way out. You can't think in a box. You have to think outside the box. And actually, I've taken that principle throughout my career, but pursued it in the area of franchising. When that
Robert,
decision,
if you don't, Mr. Zarco, if you don't mind me interrupting, because I think it's important. That Burger King that your old bosses were saying is a $50,000 case. Tell us, because that was your first case, how you started your business. Tell us how the outcome of the case, and you know, because I think that's a remarkable story.
So I was told there was no chance that I was going to win the case on the principles that I was pursuing. And within 4 to 6 months after I started the law firm, I won a defensive motion for summary judgment on the issue of the implied covenant of good faith and fair dealing. That was the only way that I was going to be able to get substantial value for that case. And that case settled. I can say what the amount was because it was all over the press. It was not a confidential settlement, and it was actually a decision made by all parties that it would be important that the settlement become public because it was beneficial to show that Burger King did the right thing when a franchisee was in trouble. And I always praise Burger King for that. And they ended up paying my client over $4 million Plus there was other aspects that were worth significantly more as well as part of the deal. And it was nice because I had that case on a contingency. The problem is it was in bankruptcy court. And although it was in bankruptcy court, the bankruptcy court did not give me all of what I was entitled to, but gave me a substantial portion of what I was entitled to. Whatever it was several hundred thousands of dollars, which was a magnificent injection for a law firm that had just started, and my salary was $50,000. So clearly, although the decision was won during my first year of practice, my second year of practice is when the money actually was awarded by the bankruptcy court, because that money, the bulk of it went into the bankruptcy estate for creditors.
Because that's also important to discuss. I mean, it's not like you did the case and got paid like in a month. If you did the case, you had to put all the work out and then you get the money, and then it takes you probably a year to collect.
Oh, this took a lot of courage. Okay, I got to tell you, this took a lot of courage to do what I did. I mean, I put all the cards on the table. When I left, my associate at the law firm I was at was fired, and then I, feeling bad that the lawyer was fired, I brought him on to work with me. The legal assistant that was working with me then left to come work with me. My secretary at that law firm left and came to work with me. So it was the four of us that actually worked hard and worked many hours to start the law firm. I was the only one that took a cut salary. The rest of them came in for exactly what they were paying, but I appreciated them very much. In fact, my secretary became a lawyer eventually. And today I understand she has a successful practice, a lot of which was following principles that she learned at the firm. But I had a really nice group of people that we really wanted to make sure that we overcame, all odds. It was an against all odds kind of situation, but we did it. And the minute we won that Burger King case, I was very smart to do a press release and distribute it throughout the country, except we did not have internet and there was no email. So what I did was I immediately prepared a press release with fax cover sheets, and I personally sat in my office till 2:00 in the morning, sending faxes to every newspaper, every magazine, every radio and TV station in the country. And the story was picked up by several media outlets. So I was on TV, I was on radio, I was on paper, I was in magazines, and it was the beginning of the career. Because what happened then is the floodgates just opened up. And a McDonald's case come in, and then a Dunkin' Donuts case come in, and then a Taco Bell case came in. So within a year and a half, I was representing franchisees from about half a dozen franchise companies, as opposed to just Burger King. It was about half a dozen. Now imagine, this is about 30 years ago. Today, I represent franchisees from over 550 franchise brands, 23 countries, 44 states, and I believe it's among the largest franchise practices in the world, if not the largest. And it's because people know that this is a passion for me. Thank God, things have gone very well. I do not have to work anymore. I've not had to work for the last 15 years, but I work harder than ever because I don't really consider it a job. This is like a hobby that really makes me feel very good. It's very emotionally fulfilling and intellectually fulfilling, keeps the brain sharp. But most importantly, I'm helping people, helping a lot of people. It's very common, very common for me to get clients that come in here and say, please help me. I've lost my franchise, the franchisor did this, or the economy caused that, whatever the situation is, where they say, I've had to take my children out of college, or I've had to sell my home, or my home is in foreclosure, or my bank account has been wiped out, or my wife is going to leave me because now I've lost everything. That is very troubling. I've had 3 situations in my career where people have come to me and said, if you don't win this case, I'm going to commit suicide.
Oh, wow.
And actually showed me the insurance policy reflecting that they had coverage for suicide because they had taken out the policy a couple of years before when they first started having trouble with the franchise. You talk about burden, you talk about responsibility. well, you know what? I took it upon myself. I figured if I can't do it, no one can do it. And thank God those three individuals are still alive today. And they were able to regain their financial strength and viability, and all have prospered, and their next generation has followed in their footsteps. And I got to tell you, there's nothing more rewarding than that. There's no money in the world that can replace that feeling when you can truly change someone's life. You know, when you reach a particular level of financial success, any extra amount is really just marginal. It's not going to change anything. You're not going to eat better. You're not going to buy a bigger house. You're not going to have any more cars or any more boats or anything else. It's just so much. When you see about all these people have billions of dollars, the guy that's got billions of dollars is not living any better than the guy that's got 100 or 200 million. Because what else are you going to buy? Okay, I'm sorry. You can build a rocket and go to the moon. You know what? I would never get in a rocket, even if it was for free, because I'm too scared. I don't even jump off an airplane. So imagine, there's only so much, but what is really rewarding is not the money. It's how you feel for what you do, how you make your family feel about you for helping other people, the lessons you can give your family, your children's friends, your family at the office, because I have a family at the office here that is unbelievable. And that's why I'm extremely generous with them. And I do things tomorrow, for example, I'm taking the whole law firm. We're 25, 30 people. I'm taking them out on my boat. We're going to spend the day on the boat on Friday afternoon, Friday morning. After that, feed them breakfast. And then I'm going to bring them back in the afternoon. I'm going to cook them a lunch, which I personally will cook for them because I'm a chef. And this is what keeps our firm together, because these are the things that I believe make life so wonderful. It's not just about me. It's about us and everyone that surrounds me and everyone that we touch. And we touch a lot of people by the nature of the business that we have. It's not like I represent, giant corporation A versus giant corporation B, which we litigate for 10 years. And at the end of the day, one company, beats the other one by $2 billion. That doesn't change anybody's life. All they do is they do financial entries in their accounting, transfer over $2 billion out of our 100 billion to this company. And the company that got the 2 billion, add 2 billion to our 80 billion we have already. Nothing changed, just a paper transaction. But when you're dealing with people like lawyers that work for and represent victims of personal injury cases, I mean, those people deserve a lot of praise because they're helping change people's lives. Well, that's how I look at it in my world. I'm representing.
Yeah, I mean, people are putting their life savings into a franchise. I mean, like you said, I mean, you're dealing with real Americans, or now you're international, but you're dealing with real people, like most people that buy franchises are putting their life savings into a Subway or into a Baskin Robbins, and you're like the people's champion, because how does a guy that buys these Subways or there, how do they fight? How do they, and so forth. And when you're dealing with franchises, you have a tremendous amount of pressure, because in your business, you're not charging your clients billable, a lot of hours. A lot of these cases you're taking on contingency. So you're almost like a partner in the case, like the worst thing you do is pay a lawyer $1,000 an hour, lose the case, and the lawyer gets paid, you lose the case. And, the lawyer's like, we'll get him next time. And that to me is what's also remarkable about your story, because you're fighting big law firms, that have big, backing, and you're taking a lot of risk to that. It's almost like when you started your little lawn business.
This is such an important aspect that you have brought to light. A lot of these franchisees are not only putting their life savings into these businesses, Seth. These people are putting their life savings, and they're going to the SBA, the Small Business Administration, and they're going to banks, and they're mortgaging their homes, and they're borrowing money long-term in order to invest in these franchises. So if these franchises do not succeed, it's not like at the end of the day, they say, well, I still got my house. I've still got, some little money in the bank. No, they've got nothing. And then on top of having no business, they then owe a bank or owe the SBA money. So it's a really tough situation. So by the time they come to me, what do you think? That I'm going to say, listen, you know, my hourly rate is $900, $1,000 an hour. Are you kidding? That's like shutting the door in their face. So what I said was, what can I do where I can become the key to the courthouse? I want to be the key to the courthouse. I want to make sure that if they have a problem, that they can come to me and that I can use the blessings that I have received through all the financial security that I have obtained over the years and use that for their benefit. And that's why I'm the equalizer. When I get into these cases with these big law firms and these big companies, it's not a question of them crushing the franchisee financially. They have to crush me. And all I need is enough money to carry that case. It doesn't matter that McDonald's is worth a gazillion dollars and I'm worth a lot less. I know that I have enough that my cases will go to the courthouse and will go to trial. I'm not running out of money. So my clients have that financial security. And the reason that's important is because otherwise I would lose any leverage in any negotiation. During a particular time in my career, several of the large franchisors came to a time that they, and I know this through people that have come to meet over the years from fighting, you kind of develop friends with your own enemies if you're fighting them all the time and they realize you're really a good guy, you just have a different personality in court. But who told me, listen, a few of these big companies, in essence, for lack of a better word, conspired to not settle with you because they knew every time they settled, they would be feeding your bank account.
Interesting.
And they started putting a lot of money into legal fees, knowing that I was going to collapse. Well, I didn't. And I was nowhere near collapsing. And when they realized that, they go, oh my God, we just spent $1 gazillion in defending a case we're going to ultimately lose. And then they settled all these cases. Because what they didn't realize is while these were 4 big companies, at that time I was already representing franchisees for about 250, 300 brands. So there was a whole whirlwind of work that my law firm and I had that they weren't even aware of. So I had the money coming in from everywhere. And that's what allowed me to fund the cases. And that's why we're known as the equalizers in this big, world of franchising. And I will tell you, it has made a difference. I have a lot of respect for those lawyers that I litigate against. They're very good lawyers from very good law firms, from very good companies. And all these companies are not all bad. There's very few that really have, that kind of stereotype for them that they earned maybe for a particular given period of time, because at that time they had a particular management that was not wearing the appropriate hat, if you know what I'm saying. They were not wearing no white hat.
Of course.
Okay. But these companies are all great companies with great concepts and great ideas and made a lot of people wealthy. Sometimes people get a little greedy, and we're there to make sure that checks and balances are such that
I mean, how many
everybody gets
franchises? I mean, McDonald's has how many franchisees owners?
Well, they have over 30 something thousand stores.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, they're, all the people that you're litigating against, they're not bad companies, as you're saying, but at the end of the day, there's people that are rightfully victims as franchisees owners. And, because we're getting at the end, but I really think what your story is, because people see the life you live, the boats, the house, you're just having so much fun and wow, you know what I mean? Like what a life that he has. But what I think is so remarkable about your story is coming from the background that you came from with your parents and your parents, putting you into an entrepreneurial spirit where you went to Harvard. You were always humble. Like it probably wasn't easy going to school and, while kids were, partying, having a good time and you having to scrub toilets, but you got the job done. But what I also think is you've taken so many risks and chances. And at the end of the day, it's not like you got this law firm from your family and, you've been dealing with this. And that to me is what's, remarkable is if someone's watching your story, someone's sitting there at college at Harvard, or someone's sitting at a law firm and their bosses are not ethical or not respecting them, but they're like, I don't want to quit because what am I going to do? You never thought that. You believed in yourself. And I think that is the story behind your story is that you bet on yourself. When you take the cases, at the end of the day, you're betting on yourself that you're going to win. And that to me is what's so remarkable, is you're representing, because you could go on the other side, represent big companies that makes the same amount of money and live a very stress-free life. You just fight and, Nick, like you said, and like play the games, but you're getting your money always from the big corporations. And
that doesn't feel right. I
Yeah.
do not think, based on my personality, my character, okay, as a man of integrity and honor, that I would feel right representing a franchisor on a particular case where there's evidence that the franchisor abused the franchisee or acted wrongfully, and that then it was my mandate to squash the franchisee and litigate him hard enough so that, using scorched earth policies, that franchisee would never have their day in court. I don't believe that I could sleep well at night if that's what I woke up and did every day. And therefore, being on my side of the fence, of me looking at the issues the way I look at them to benefit the little guy, feels a lot better. All these toys and cars and boats that I may have, they, believe it or not, are not materialistic possessions the way I look at them. Every single acquisition that I have made is a trophy for a particular case that I have won. I don't ever buy anything that would be deemed to be ostentatious unless I can afford it, which is a formula that I use, which is I take 20% of every case that I win's attorney's fee portion. So if the attorney's fee was $100, I'll take $20 and I will buy myself a trophy. The same way when I was a kid and I'd get really good grades and I get a little star on the corner of my paper. And then when I got a little older, there was a little plastic trophy. And then a little older than that, there was a little metal or bronze trophy. And then when you got much older was the glass and stainless steel trophy. Well, big boys, bigger toys. That's all it is. And when I sit in those cars or I float on those boats, I remember what it took to win that case. I remember the sacrifice. They work until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, 7 days a week, not being with the family, in essence, living with my client, learning the case, teaching them, looking through thousands and thousands of documents that the other side would dump on us to make sure they would distract us as decoys. I remember all that every time I get into one of these cars or boats. And frankly, I don't apologize for it. I didn't steal it from anybody. I can account for every dollar that I have, for every case that I have won. And it's all over the country. It's not just here. A lot of people that live in Miami have no idea the amount of success I've achieved in New York, Texas, California, Detroit, Atlanta, all these places, because it's a national practice and it's an international practice. It's 23 countries, 44 states,
Wow.
and doing this for 35 years. After a while, Seth, you get it right.
So to finish it off, I have 2 questions. The first question is, what advice would you give to somebody in law school watching this? And then the second question is, where do you see yourself and your business and practice in the next 5 to 10 years?
For anyone who's graduating law school this year or next year, the most important thing you have to think about and recognize is that you're entering a beautiful profession. You're entering an honorable profession. And you're entering a business that if you utilize your license in a positive way, you'll be able to change the world one person at a time. Each client that you help, they will share that message with other people in similarly situated positions. So there's an exponential impact to the positive benefit you give a client, number one. Number two, try different areas of law initially. Try to clerk in different law firms during the school term while you're in law school. And then it's okay to change jobs a couple of times after you graduate. Some people change jobs 10 times. I think that's too much. But I think that if you have 2 to 4 different jobs over the first 10 years of your career because you weren't sure which area of law, whether you wanted to do real estate or probate or litigation. And if you wanted litigation, is it going to be personal injury or if it's going to be commercial? That sometimes takes effort and analysis to determine what's best suited for you. But the most important thing, chase your reputation. Do not make decisions based on money. Build your reputation and money will follow. If you chase the money, you may be considered someone in the law field that people don't like. Money follows reputation. Reputation doesn't always follow money. And once you establish your career in a particular area of law that you like, do it, enjoy it, tweak it to see how it best suits the lifestyle you want to live for yourself. You may not want to work crazy hours, then don't. Then pick a different type of litigation or pick a different area of law or just take on less cases, and that may impact your income, but that may not be important to you. So do what you like to do. If you don't like being a lawyer, don't do it. Do something else. Life is too short. I told my children this, and I told my nephews this, and I tell my children's friends, do what you like to do. Don't just go after money. There's a lot of very wealthy people that I know that are miserable. They wake up miserable, they live their day miserably, they go to sleep miserably, because they know the next day they're going to wake up to be miserable. But they have giant bank accounts. But you know what? You know, they say you never saw a hearse that was ever followed by a Wells Fargo truck to dump the money in the grave. So, and with regard to my career, where I see it going, I do not want my practice to grow. I do not want more lawyers. I do not want more business per se. I've had the opportunity to be merged with many large law firms, not interested. I don't want to be bought because I have built-in inefficiencies in this practice. These inefficiencies cost me and the law firm money, but it makes us all really happy. Okay, for anyone who has seen my law firm and what it looks like, and you're getting just a smidgen of an appearance from looking behind me. Okay, but this is just literally not even 5% of the size of my personal office. And the reason
I would say 2%. Yes, 2%.
And the reason I do it is because all of my lawyers and my assistants and my support staff, you know, work in an environment that is absolutely stunningly beautiful. And it makes them very, very happy. And it makes me happy to know that they can be happy. And because of that, if I start growing the firm and this becomes a large corporation, which becomes a factory of lawyers,
as soon as you start charging them for coffee, you know.
we don't do that here. I don't do that at all. And frankly, the biggest reason why I won't do it is because I have my hand on almost every single case in this law firm. Amazing. Most clients are coming here because they want to make sure that I am supervising, that I'm involved, and things of that sort. I have great senior partners that have their own independent reputations and their own independent credits. I mean, Zarco, Einhorn, Salkowski, and Brito, between the four of us, we have over 120 years of legal experience between the four of us. Okay, so imagine, okay, the wealth of information and management depth that I have here, not to mention the additional other 10 lawyers that we have, many of which have been here 15, 18, 12 years. My CFO has been with me 26 years. Amazing. I must be doing something right and treating people very nicely, you know, to stick around that long. So the future here.
Everyone wants to be on the winning team, Robert.
Yes, they do. And I want to do everything I can to make sure they stay on the winning team. But if my next 5 to 10 years are as wonderful as my last 5 to 10 years, including the COVID years, because again, we saw that time period, although challenging, as a time for opportunity. We became much more technologically diverse, especially me. I mean, I'm considered, I guess, a dinosaur, but I've had to look at me. I'm on Zoom with you. I mean, are you kidding me? I would have never even known how to even spell Zoom, a few years ago. But the reality is, we look at everything in a positive way. So my goal and objective is that over the next 5 to 10 years, I'm as passionate, as excited, as energetic, as involved, and as healthy as I am today to continue this practice into the future and guide my partners, my associates, and my staff to a future that will be nothing but a bright, shining light.
Well, again, Robert, I really appreciate you taking the time, because part of what we do with our Haute leaders chats is, you went to school, you're highly educated, but what I've realized, whether you're a lawyer, a doctor, to get to where you get to, you also have to be an entrepreneur. And your story, whether you're going to law school, whether you're going to business school, or whether you want to be a realtor, whatever the case, is very motivating, because what you have done is and where you have gotten is all through betting on yourself. And as you said, you've put in your reputation of everything, and you've never put the money important. You've always put your reputation, what you think is right. And through that, they always say, if you think about the money, you'll never have the money. But if you don't think about the money, you think about doing well, the money comes, and you are a living testament to that. So you're a mentor, but you're also an amazing partner, because you're one of the best at what you do. So I really appreciate you taking the time to share your story, because it's motivating to me as an entrepreneur, and I hope it's motivating to many other people. So thanks a lot, Robert.
And I thank you, Seth, and I thank How Living for the support that they have given me throughout the career. We have a wonderful partnership. I think that the service you provide to your Haute partners and to your readership, by the extensive amount of information that you share with them, that gives them insight and tidbits about how they can improve themselves, how they can gain more success or more connections or their networking opportunities, I think is something that makes How Living very, very unique. And I thank you for that, for offering that to me and to the community. And most importantly, I want to thank my personal family at home for the support they have given me in being able to do what I do. And most importantly, my office family, my partners, my lawyers, my secretaries, my assistants, my office staff, everyone that surrounds this law firm. None of this success could have come without each and every one of their individual contribution. And that's why we're going boating tomorrow.
Well, yeah, enjoy the day boating with your team and the lunch. And that's what makes you special, is you're the captain of an amazing team. So thank you so much for your time, Robert. And I look forward to seeing you soon.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.